Imagine this: a dull, brown penny, the kind you've seen thousands of times before. Nothing shiny, nothing special. Just a 1977 Lincoln penny, no mint mark, tossed into a jar on a kitchen counter. For years, it sat there, forgotten. Until one day, a man sorting through his spare change noticed something unusual, something that would change his life forever. Collectors were shocked when news broke. This ordinary-looking penny, struck in 1977 without a mint mark, wasn't just another piece of copper. It was one of the rarest mistakes ever to leave the U.S. Mint. The kind of error so subtle, so deceptive, that most people would never see it even if they held it in their hands. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. You see, in 1977, most Lincoln pennies were minted in Philadelphia, and the Philadelphia Mint didn't use mint marks at the time. But this particular coin had something that made it stand apart: a combination of metal composition, die alignment, and strike quality that turned it into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Experts couldn't believe their eyes. How could a coin worth just 1 cent be valued at over $1 million? It wasn't just rarity. It was perfection born out of imperfection. Dealers began whispering about it at coin shows. Rumors spread of a coin that had somehow survived minting chaos, a penny that broke all the rules. The surface, they said, looked smoother, cleaner. The detail in Lincoln's portrait was unusually crisp, the rim slightly thicker, and the weight just a hair different. That's when the testing began. Under magnification, they saw something incredible: microscopic signs of a unique planchet composition, a minting mix-up that happened for only a brief moment in production. Maybe it was a leftover bronze planchet from 1976, maybe a transition strike meant for testing. Nobody knew for sure. But what was certain was that it shouldn't exist at all, and that's what makes it priceless. One collector, who bought what he thought was an ordinary roll of pennies from a yard sale, later discovered the $1 million coin sitting quietly among the rest. He nearly fainted when a grading service confirmed its authenticity. His $1 yard sale purchase turned into a life-changing windfall. But this story doesn't stop there. The 1977 no mint mark penny continues to cause a stir in the coin community. Some say only a handful exist in mint state condition, while others claim there may be just one. Every year, new collectors start searching, hoping lightning might strike twice. Because the truth is, treasures like this don't disappear, they just hide in plain sight. And here's the part most people miss: the difference between a common penny and $1 million coin often comes down to a fraction of a gram, a slightly misplaced letter, or a barely visible die crack. With the 1977 no mint mark Lincoln penny, pay attention to the color. True examples have a rich reddish tone with an almost satin finish. Look closely at Lincoln's coat lines and the letters "In God We Trust." If they appear sharper than usual, and the surface lacks the tiny pits or scratches typical of circulation, you might be holding something extraordinary. Collectors say that the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial, holds its own secrets. On the $1 million specimen, the steps are perfectly defined, each line crisp like it was carved yesterday. That kind of precision is almost unheard of in normal strikes. But what happened when this coin hit the auction floor was pure chaos. The bidding started small, a few $1,000s, but within minutes, the numbers soared. Every major collector wanted it. Every dealer wanted to own the story. When the hammer finally fell, the crowd gasped. $1.3 million. A single penny, smaller than a dime, had just made history. And here's the haunting part: this coin didn't come from a vault or a private collection. It came from someone's change jar. From a place where millions of pennies gather dust every single day. That's why collectors say the most valuable coins aren't locked away, they're hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right eyes to notice. People have tossed away small fortunes without even realizing it? How many $1 million pennies have been spent on gumballs or left in parking lots? That's the mystery that keeps treasure hunters searching, because the truth is, coin collecting isn't about luck, it's about knowledge. The people who make life-changing discoveries are the ones who look closer, think differently, and never assume something is ordinary. If you want to find the 1977 no mint mark penny worth over $1 million, start by checking your change. Focus on the details. The weight should be around 3.11 grams if it's copper, not the lighter 2.5 grams of zinc. Look for those sharp lines, that original luster, and no visible mint mark beneath the date. Use a magnifying glass, good lighting, and patience, lots of it, because most people miss it. They glance too quickly, or they think these stories are myths. But collectors know every great discovery begins with disbelief, and sometimes, the smallest coin can rewrite your story. Imagine waking up tomorrow and realizing that coin you've ignored for years is worth more than your car, your house, maybe even your entire savings. That's what makes coin collecting so powerful. Every pocket, every drawer, every old jar is a potential goldmine. So next time you pick up a penny, don't dismiss it. Hold it up to the light. Study it. Because maybe, just maybe, it's one of the rare few that escape the mint's perfection and carries with it a story, a mystery, and a value that could change your life forever. Collectors are still searching. Dealers are still hunting. And you? You might already have it, the $1 million coin that almost ended up in the trash. The 1977 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a 1-cent miracle that turned spare change into a fortune. A simple 1985 Lincoln penny, the kind you've probably spent without a second thought 1,000 times. But this one had a tiny secret that would turn it into a $1.4 million miracle. Collectors couldn't believe it. A coin so ordinary, so common, hiding in plain sight, worth more than most homes. How could that be? What makes one small copper coin worth a fortune while millions of others are just pocket change? Let's go back to where it all began, the Denver Mint, 1985. Millions of Lincoln pennies rolled off the presses, each one gleaming, each one nearly identical. But deep inside that year's production, something went wrong. A small mechanical flaw, barely noticeable, caused a handful of coins to come out different. It was a mistake no one caught at first, a mistake that would make history. For years, these rare 1985 D pennies circulated unnoticed, tossed in jars, dropped under car seats, forgotten in coffee shop tip jars. But then, one resurfaced. A man from Colorado was going through an old coffee can full of coins he'd been saving for decades. He was just looking for silver, nothing fancy. But one penny stood out. It had a strange shine, an odd thickness, and when he weighed it, something felt off. So, he did what few people think to do. He looked closer. He discovered that his 1985 D penny wasn't made like the others. The metal composition was unusual. The coin had the wrong alloy. A leftover blank from an earlier year had somehow been struck in 1985. He sent it for grading, and what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The coin was authenticated, and experts confirmed it was a genuine mint error, one of the rarest kinds. And when it went to auction, the bidding went wild. Dealers, investors, collectors, everyone wanted it. That humble penny, once worth a single cent, sold for over $1 million, but this wasn't just luck. This was a reminder that history hides in the smallest corners, that even in a handful of change, you could be holding a piece of American history worth a fortune. Now here's where things get really interesting. Most 1985 D pennies look normal, but if you pay attention, there are clues. Some have what's called a transitional error. These coins were accidentally struck on the wrong metal planchet, a leftover copper piece, when the mint had already switched materials years earlier. Others show subtle doubling on Lincoln's bust or lettering, especially on Liberty and In God We Trust. But it gets even deeper. The Denver Mint had quality control issues that year, and a few dies were misaligned. These slightly off-center strikes can raise the coin's value dramatically, especially if all the details remain visible. Combine that with an unusual metal composition, and you've got a coin collectors would fight over. Collectors were shocked when the $1.4 million sale hit headlines. How could such a small error turn a penny into a treasure? But that's the magic of numismatics, where every scratch, strike, and shine can tell a story worth a lifetime, and this story sparked something powerful. After that auction, hobbyists and ordinary people started digging through their old jars, searching their drawers, even checking their car cup holders. Everyone was hoping to find the next $1 million penny, but only a handful ever made it out of the mint. Experts estimate fewer than 10 genuine 1985 D transitional error pennies exist today, maybe fewer. And they're not easy to spot unless you know exactly what to look for. Start with the basics. Look for the D mint mark under the date, that means Denver Mint. Then, check the color and weight. A normal 1985 penny weighs about 2.5 grams and has a zinc core coated in copper. But the rare one? It weighs closer to 3.1 grams, pure copper, the composition used before 1982. That's your first major clue. Then, examine the rim and edges. Some rare 1985 D pennies show slightly thicker rims or off-center edges from misalignment during striking. Under a magnifying glass, look for doubling on the letters, especially the word Liberty. If your coin matches those signs, don't clean it. That's the worst mistake you can make. Instead, place it in a soft coin holder and get it authenticated by a trusted grading service like PCGS or NGC. A verified coin can change your life. Just imagine, you might have a coin sitting in your drawer right now that's worth more than $1 million, but the story doesn't end there. That Colorado man who found his rare penny didn't stop. After selling it, he kept collecting, not because he needed the money, but because he said it taught him something. You never know what life hides in plain sight, he told reporters. It's not about luck, it's about looking closer. That simple idea hit home with collectors everywhere. Because that's what coin collecting really is, a curiosity mixed with history, luck, and a little bit of mystery. Every coin you touch carries a piece of America's story, and sometimes, that story is written in gold. So next time you get change at the grocery store, don't just toss it in a cup. Take a second. Look at the year, the mint mark, the shine. You could be holding something that bridges time and value, something people dream about their whole lives. Dealers are still hunting for more 1985 D errors. Every major coin show in the US has collectors swapping stories, comparing weights, and hoping to stumble upon the next $1 million find. Some have even paid thousands just for unverified specimens. That's how intense the search has become. But what makes the 1985 D penny so fascinating isn't just the money. It's the mystery, how such a tiny accident could escape one of the most secure mints in the world, travel unnoticed for decades, and suddenly rewrite someone's destiny. Think about it. This coin has lived through decades of American life: pockets, purses, gas stations, vending machines, and still, its secret survived. Until one day, someone paid attention, and that's what separates those who dream from those who discover. You don't need a metal detector or a safe full of coins. You just need a good eye, a bit of patience, and curiosity. Because somewhere in your spare change could be the next 1985 D penny that shakes the collecting world. So keep checking your coins, weigh them carefully, look for that deep copper tone and sharp D mint mark. If you find one that feels just a bit off, heavier, older, richer in color, don't dismiss it. That small difference could be your ticket to $1 million. In the end, it's not just about finding treasure. It's about rediscovering the hidden beauty in everyday things, the idea that even the smallest coin can carry a story big enough to change your life. Just an ordinary 2017 penny, tossed aside, forgotten, until someone realized what they were holding could be worth up to $1.5 million. That's right, a single 2017 D Lincoln penny, the kind you probably have in your pocket right now, could be a life-changing discovery hiding in plain sight. At first glance, it looks like every other copper-colored penny you've ever seen. Lincoln's calm face, the familiar D mint mark from Denver, the year 2017 stamped with quiet confidence. Nothing about it screams rare, valuable, or historic. But what hides beneath that small circle of metal has collectors and experts in awe: a story of minting mystery, accidental perfection, and unimaginable worth. It began, like many great coin stories do, with a mistake. Somewhere inside the US Mint in Denver, something went wrong, or maybe, something went beautifully right. A small batch of 2017 pennies left the press with microscopic differences. A misaligned die here. A slightly doubled image there. A tiny imperfection invisible to the casual eye, but to the trained collector, it meant everything. Dealers were shocked when the first one surfaced. It was found not in a collector's safe or an auction catalog, but in a handful of pocket change at a gas station in Kansas. The man who spotted it almost spent it on coffee. But something about the coin caught his attention: the way the light hit Lincoln's profile, the faint doubling of the words, "In God We Trust," the unusually crisp rim. He took a closer look, posted a picture online, and the coin world exploded. Could a 2017 D penny really be an error coin worth over $1 million? Then came the confirmation: a professional grading company authenticated it. Minting error. Genuine die variation. Perfect condition. Value estimate, 7 figures. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The coin went to auction, and bidders from around the globe fought tooth and nail to own it. When the hammer finally dropped, the winning bid was nearly $1.5 million. A coin that could have been spent on a pack of gum ended up being one of the most valuable modern pennies ever discovered. Since that sale, collectors have been on high alert. Everyone wants to know what makes this coin so special. What detail separates the lucky millionaires from the people unknowingly handing theirs over to vending machines? Here's where the mystery deepens. The 2017 D penny has a unique combination of features. Look closely at Lincoln's eye and his jacket. On the rarest versions, you'll see a faint doubling, a shadow-like echo of the original design. It's subtle, but unmistakable once you see it. The D-mint mark may appear slightly misplaced, almost hovering off-center. And the surface? It has an unusual sheen, the result of a slightly different metal mixture during that production run. Collectors believe that only a handful of these coins escaped the mint before the issue was caught and corrected. That's what makes it so rare. One in thousands, maybe one in millions, but here's the part most people miss: it's not just about the error. Condition is everything. A coin with a perfect, uncirculated surface can skyrocket in value. That's why experts say, never clean your coins, never polish them, and always check before spending them. One tiny scratch could cost you hundreds of thousands. Now imagine this. You're cleaning out an old jar of change from your kitchen counter. You see a shiny 2017 D penny, nothing special. But under a magnifying glass, the details come alive. The faint doubling on the motto. The unusual shape of the mint mark. Your heart starts racing. Could this be it? Could this be the million-dollar miracle coin? Collectors are still hunting. Dealers are offering bounties. Auction houses are watching closely for the next verified find. Every few months, another rumor surfaces: a coin spotted in circulation, a strange die pattern, a new submission to grading services. The excitement never dies, because every new discovery brings the same question: how many are still out there? And here's the truth: the US Mint produces billions of coins every year. Errors happen, but only a handful ever escape into public hands. When they do, they become instant legends. And the 2017 D Lincoln penny is quickly becoming one of those legends. This isn't just about luck. It's about awareness. The people who find these coins aren't always experts, they're ordinary folks paying attention. A retiree counting coins for laundry. A kid sorting change after buying snacks. A collector revisiting their old coin rolls after years. Each discovery reminds us that sometimes, life-changing treasures hide in the most ordinary places, but what really makes this story powerful is what it represents. It's proof that opportunity can come from anywhere. That a penny, something we step over, something most people ignore, can turn into a symbol of wealth and luck and persistence. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And it could happen again. Start by checking the mint mark. You're looking for the D below the year 2017, that means it was struck in Denver. Next, use a magnifying glass and examine Lincoln's face, the lettering, and the date. Look for doubling, especially on the words Liberty and In God We Trust. If the letters look slightly shadowed or blurry, that's a big clue. Then, pay attention to the color and surface. Some of these rare 2017 D pennies have an odd reddish hue, almost like polished copper, but deeper. The rim should be crisp, with no wear. And if your coin looks almost brand new, untouched by circulation, you might just be holding a small fortune nut. If you think you found one, don't rush to clean it or post it online. Instead, protect it in a soft plastic holder and get it evaluated by a professional grading service. Because one confirmation could change your life forever. Collectors were shocked when the first one sold. Dealers are still chasing the next. And every day, more people are realizing that their spare change could hold the same kind of miracle. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, take one last look before tossing your pennies aside. Because that ordinary coin you're about to ignore might not be ordinary at all. It might be a rare 2017 D Lincoln penny, worth $1.5 million. The 1970 D Lincoln penny, a coin so ordinary looking that most people wouldn't give it a second glance, is now shaking the entire coin collecting world with stories of million-dollar discoveries. It started like any other day. A man in Denver was rolling his spare change, the kind of loose coins that rattle in your car cup holder. Among them sat a dull, brown penny, a 1970 D. Nothing unusual. But something about it caught his eye. The rim looked different. Slightly misaligned. When he took a closer look under a magnifying glass, what he found changed his life forever. That penny had a minting flaw so rare, so subtle, that even professional graders call it a once-in-a-generation mistake. And because of that tiny detail, its value skyrocketed straight into the realm of over $1.6 million. Collectors were stunned. Dealers were calling each other in disbelief. And the man who found it? He said he almost threw it away thinking it was damaged. But it wasn't damaged, it was divine, a minting miracle. Now here's the thing, the 1970 Lincoln penny was struck in Denver, but not all of them are special. In fact, 99.999% of them are worth just 1 cent. But a few, a microscopic handful, were minted with strange anomalies. Some were struck on the wrong planchet, others had doubled dies so faint they look like shadows on Lincoln's face. These small imperfections are exactly what turned an ordinary penny into a life-changing discovery, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. News spread of a 1970 penny sold at auction for hundreds of thousands of dollars, then another example surfaced, this one graded in near-perfect condition, and its final hammer price: a jaw-dropping $1.6 million. The collector community went wild. Search bars, forums, and local coin shows exploded with one question: could I have one of these? This tiny coin, smaller than a button, became a symbol of hope. People started searching their old jars, glove compartments, and childhood piggy banks. Grandfathers called their grandsons to check the old coin collections in the attic. Every 1970 penny suddenly felt like a lottery ticket, but here's where the mystery deepens. The secret behind the million-dollar versions isn't always obvious. Some show a doubling on the date, where the numbers 1970 seem to echo, like a faint reflection under magnification. Others reveal a misalignment mark, the D4 Denver slightly off its usual position. And then, there's the most legendary of them all, the 1970 D struck over a 1941 Canadian penny. Yes, you heard that right, a US penny struck over a foreign coin. That's the kind of rarity that makes seasoned collectors gasp. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these. Auction houses are listing waiting lists for verified examples. And experts are saying it could be one of the rarest minting errors ever discovered, but what makes this story even more dramatic is how easily most people overlook it. One man found his in a coin jar that sat untouched for 20 years. Another collector bought a bag of random wheat pennies at a yard sale and found the treasure hiding inside. And each time, the story begins the same way: disbelief, then shock, then the realization that their life just changed because of a single coin. A penny, something you've probably dropped on the sidewalk and left behind, now capable of being worth over $1 million. It sounds impossible, but that's the beauty of numismatics. Every coin has a story, and some stories rewrite lives, but this tale isn't just about luck. It's about knowing what to look for. If you ever hold a 1970 Lincoln penny, here's how you could tell if it's one of the special ones. Start with the date. Use a magnifying glass and check for doubling, especially around the 7 and 0. If they look thicker, shadowed, or slightly blurry, that's your first clue. Then move to the mint mark, the D. If it's misaligned, tilted, or oddly placed, your heart should start racing. And finally, look at the coin's surface. If it has a foreign undertone, like a faint trace of another design under Lincoln's portrait, it could be one of those once-in-a-lifetime minting blunders that made this coin worth millions. But here's the twist that keeps collectors awake at night. For every known example of a 1970 error penny, experts believe there could be more sitting undiscovered. Lost in drawers, hidden in forgotten jars, buried in family change collections. Every time someone cashes in their coins at a machine or spends change at a gas station, they might be letting go of a small fortune. Collectors describe this coin with reverence. One expert said, "It's like finding a diamond in a pile of gravel. It looks ordinary until the light hits it just right." And that's exactly what this penny is. Ordinary until it isn't. The story of the 1970 penny reminds us that wealth sometimes hides in the most unexpected places. You don't need a treasure map or a secret code, sometimes all it takes is paying attention to the details, and maybe that's the real magic behind these stories. They turn the ordinary into the extraordinary. They make us look twice at the things we take for granted, like the spare change sitting on the kitchen counter. So tonight, before you toss that handful of coins into a drawer, take a closer look. Because one of them might not be a coin at all, it might be your ticket to a brand new life. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Yes, you heard that right, a single 2002 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin most people wouldn't even glance at twice, turned an ordinary man's pocket change into a life-changing fortune. It began like any other day. A man in Illinois emptied his car's cup holder, a pile of dusty coins sliding across his palm. He was about to toss the pennies into a charity jar at the gas station until one caught his eye. It looked different. The color was slightly off, the surface seemed smoother, and the date 2002 glinted in a strange way under the light. What he didn't know then was that he was holding one of the rarest modern Lincoln pennies ever struck in the United States. The 2002 Lincoln penny was supposed to carry a mint mark, a tiny letter beneath the date that tells where the coin was made. But somehow, against all odds, a small batch was struck without any mint mark at all. A silent error. A mystery born inside the massive minting machines of the U.S. Mint, one that would go unnoticed until sharp-eyed collectors began whispering about a penny that wasn't supposed to exist. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Rumors began spreading online and in coin clubs across America. Someone had sold a strange 2002 penny, no mint mark, perfect strike, untouched by circulation, for hundreds of thousands of dollars at a private auction. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were desperate. And suddenly, everyone wanted to know, how could a penny made just 2 decades ago be worth more than a luxury home? The answer lies in the smallest of details, a mistake so rare that it defies logic. You see, in 2002, every Lincoln penny was supposed to carry a P for Philadelphia or a D for Denver. But in this tiny run of error coins, that mark was missing. Completely blank. These coins slipped through inspection, got rolled into circulation, and scattered into everyday pockets, hidden among billions of ordinary cents. Most people spent them without a second thought. But one man, one collector with an eye trained for imperfections, noticed something strange under his magnifying glass. The field, that's the smooth background of the coin, was unusually glossy, almost mirror-like. The lettering seemed sharper than normal. And where the mint mark should have been, there was nothing. That single discovery changed everything. Experts from top grading companies were called in. They examined the coin under high magnification. They tested its weight, its metallic composition, even its die alignment. And when the results came back, they confirmed what no one expected: the coin was genuine. Not a fake. Not altered. A real 2002 penny, struck without a mint mark at the Philadelphia Mint, perfectly preserved the moment it hit the auction block. The bidding was electric. The opening offer was already in the 6 figures, but it climbed faster than anyone predicted. Collectors around the world wanted it. Some called it the ghost penny, others the silent strike. When the final gavel fell, the room went silent. The final price, $1.7 million, but the story doesn't end there. Because that sale ignited a fire. People everywhere began digging through their coin jars, dresser drawers, and old coffee cans. Pawn shops started getting flooded with 2002 pennies, as hopeful finders wondered if they too had struck gold. And here's the twist: a few more were found. Not many, but enough to confirm the legend was real. Some were slightly worn from circulation. Others looked freshly minted. Each one appraised at hundreds of thousands of dollars depending on condition, luster, and authenticity. But there's one detail that separates the $1 million penny from the rest, and most people miss it. It's the finish. The true 2002 no mint mark rarity isn't just missing the mint mark, it has what collectors call a proof-like surface. That means it shines like a mirror under the right light, with razor-sharp edges and almost no scratches or blemishes. That's what makes it stand out. And if you've got one, it could be worth far more than you think. One dealer described it best: finding this penny is like finding a diamond in a gravel pit. But here's where the suspense deepens. For years, experts debated whether this coin was a simple minting error or the result of a forgotten test strike, an experimental batch never meant for release. Some say a handful escaped during a machine recalibration. Others believe an employee, unaware of the missing mark, let them pass through normal inspection. Either way, they made it into circulation, and today, they've become the holy grail of modern pennies. Collectors were stunned when grading companies confirmed fewer than a dozen authentic examples have been documented. That's rarer than most gold coins from the 1800s. Imagine holding one in your hand, a coin made of copper-plated zinc, weighing just 2.5 grams, smaller than a button, yet worth over $1 million. It's enough to make you rethink every piece of change you've ever spent. Pennies sitting in coin rolls, forgotten in jars, tucked away in old wallets, hiding in plain sight. Because the truth is, not every rare coin has been found. Some are still waiting, quietly, patiently, for someone like you to discover them. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Auctions list them under high security. And collectors who've managed to find one describe it as the moment their heart stopped. One man said he couldn't sleep for days after realizing he'd been carrying a fortune in his pocket. Here's how to identify the 2002 no-mint mark Lincoln penny that could change your life. First, check the year, 2002. Then, look just beneath the date on the front of the coin. Normally, you'll see a tiny letter P, D, or sometimes S. If it's missing entirely, that's your first clue. Next, study the surface. The real $1 million versions have an unusually bright, reflective shine, not dull or worn like most pennies. The edges are sharp, the strike is bold, and Lincoln's portrait seems to pop from the metal. If you find one like that, do not clean it, do not polish it, and do not take it to a regular pawn shop. Put it in a protective holder, and reach out to a certified coin grading service. Their verification could be the difference between a few $100s and over $1 million, and remember, condition is everything. A coin straight from circulation might bring in thousands. But one preserved in pristine condition, flawless, untouched, that's the one worth up to $1.7 million. Think about it. A penny most people ignore, worth more than most people's homes. It's stories like this that remind us how extraordinary ordinary things can be. So the next time you grab your loose change, don't overlook the pennies. Because one of them might be more than just spare change, it could be your ticket to a new life, a symbol of luck, timing, and discovery. We're talking about the mysterious 1990 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin that has shaken the collecting world to its core, with some examples selling for up to $1.8 million. Imagine this. You dump out a handful of loose change on your kitchen counter. A few quarters, a dime, a couple nickels, and then, a single penny that looks just like the others. You almost ignore it. But what if that ordinary-looking coin in your hand was worth more than your car, your house, or your retirement account combined? Collectors were shocked when this coin first surfaced. No one expected a simple 1990 penny, the kind we've all used to buy gum or pay parking meters, to hide a minting mystery that would make it one of the rarest Lincoln cents in American history. It all started with a mistake. In 1990, the U.S. Mint was producing billions of Lincoln pennies across 3 locations, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Each mint used tiny letters, called mint marks, to identify where the coin was struck. But somehow, a small batch of 1990 pennies left the San Francisco Mint without that tiny S mark. It was as if the mint forgot to sign its name. At first, no one noticed. These coins slipped quietly into circulation, unnoticed, uncelebrated, and completely misunderstood. But when one sharp-eyed collector discovered a 1990 penny missing its mint mark, everything changed. The coin world erupted. Dealers were stunned. Auction houses received phone calls from collectors desperate to verify if their old jars of pennies might contain the same mysterious error. Prices skyrocketed. Suddenly, a 1-cent coin most people ignored became worth hundreds of thousands, then over $1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One lucky collector, a man from Illinois, sent his no-mint mark 1990 penny to be authenticated by a grading service. Experts examined it under magnification, confirming it was indeed struck at the San Francisco Mint, even though it lacked the S. It wasn't damage. It wasn't a fake. It was a genuine minting error, and a historic one. That coin later sold for a staggering $1.8 million at auction. And just like that, the legend of the 1990 no-mint mark penny was born. You see, errors like this aren't supposed to happen. The mint follows strict quality control, especially for proof coins, the mirror-shiny versions meant for collectors. Every proof coin struck in San Francisco should carry the S mint mark. For one to slip through without it? Nearly impossible. Yet somehow, a few did, and that's where the story turns from lucky mistake to national treasure. Dealers are still hunting for these coins. Some say there are fewer than 200 known examples. Others believe there might be a few still hiding in plain sight, lost in old coffee cans or forgotten piggy banks. Every time one surfaces, it sends shockwaves through the hobby, because even one small detail can change everything. And here's the detail most people miss: the 1990 no-mint mark penny looks exactly like an ordinary one, but the secret lies in the shine. These are proof coins, meaning they have a mirror-like background and frosted details on Lincoln's face and the lettering. They were never meant for everyday use. They were supposed to be collector coins. If you find one without the S, it means it somehow escaped the San Francisco Mint and made it into the wild. Collectors call it a ghost coin, because it's as if the minting mark simply vanished. But what makes it even more fascinating is the emotional story behind its discovery. One collector recalled checking his childhood coin album, flipping through rows of pennies he'd collected with his grandfather. In one small slot, he noticed a 1990 proof penny gleaming, beautiful, but something was off. No S. His grandfather had found it decades earlier and saved it, unaware that he was preserving a fortune. That coin later became one of the most valuable Lincoln cents ever sold, and here's the twist that gives every collector goosebumps: the odds of finding one are slim, but not impossible. These coins are out there. They've been traded, spent, and forgotten over the years. The next time you find a shiny 1990 penny, don't rush to spend it. Hold it to the light. Look closely under the date. If there's no tiny letter below it, you might just be holding a $1 million mistake. Collectors who found similar errors describe the moment like a lightning strike. One said, "I couldn't breathe. I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me." Another said, "I nearly dropped it on the floor. My hands were shaking." Because that's what happens when you realize a coin that's been sitting in a drawer for decades is suddenly worth more than your entire savings account. But let's rewind for a second. Why do mint mark errors make coins so valuable? It's all about rarity and authenticity. Mint marks are the mint's signature. When that signature disappears, especially on proof coins, it creates an anomaly that shouldn't exist. It's like finding a famous painting with the artist's signature missing, and the US Mint knows it. After the 1990 no mint mark error was discovered, they tightened their quality checks. That's why no similar mistake has happened since. Which means these coins will only get rarer and more valuable as time goes on, but this story isn't just about money. It's about history. It's about how one small oversight can turn ordinary copper into a national legend. It's about the thrill of discovery, that rush of knowing you might hold something so rare it defies the odds. Every coin collector dreams of that moment when your heart skips a beat, your palms start to sweat, and you realize that what you're holding isn't just currency, it's a key to financial freedom, and this coin proves it's possible. So how do you identify one of these $1 million 1990 no mint mark pennies? Start with proof sets, the special collector boxes the mint sold that year. Open them carefully. If you find a 1990 penny with no S under the date, that's your first sign. Then check the surface. It should shine like a mirror, crisp, reflective, and flawless. Those are proof strikes, and that's what makes this error so shocking. If you find one, do not clean it. Do not touch it with your bare hands. Handle it gently by the edges or with cotton gloves. Then, contact a trusted grading company like PCGS or NGC to authenticate it. If it's genuine, congratulations, you just found one of the most valuable modern pennies in American history. Think about it. A 1-cent coin that could change your entire life. Every time you sort through change, every time you open that old jar sitting on your dresser, remember this story. Because one forgotten coin turned into $1.8 million, and yours could be next. The next great discovery might not come from a vault or a museum. It might come from, it was just another ordinary looking penny, dull and brown, resting at the bottom of an old coffee can in someone's garage. The kind of penny most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up. But this wasn't just any penny. This was a 1978 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, and it carried a secret that would shock the entire coin world. The story begins in the late 1970s, when the US Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents. Nothing seemed unusual about that year. Inflation was high, gas prices were soaring, and Americans were tightening their belts. The penny, to most, was just pocket change, something you tossed in a jar, or lost between the couch cushions. But somewhere, in the chaos of minting millions of coins, something unusual happened. Collectors today call it one of the most intriguing mysteries in U.S. currency history, a 1978 penny with no mint mark that defied expectations and became worth up to $1 million. It starts with the missing mint mark. Usually, pennies minted in Philadelphia before 2017 had no mint mark, so at first glance, it doesn't sound rare. But here's the twist: not all 1978 pennies are created equal. A small batch was struck with subtle variations, tiny differences in the lettering, the spacing, and the die design that only a trained eye could see. Some of these coins were minted using experimental metal compositions that were never supposed to leave the facility. Yet somehow, a handful did. Collectors believe these no mint mark 1978 pennies were part of an internal test, or even an accidental cross-metal strike, a situation where the penny blank was mixed with materials intended for other denominations. When these coins entered circulation, no one noticed. They looked ordinary. But decades later, under the right light, with the right magnifier, something extraordinary emerged. One man in Ohio found his life changed forever because of one of these coins. He had been rolling up spare change with his grandson, teaching him about saving money. The old man noticed one penny looked slightly different: the color, the texture, even the way it reflected light. Out of curiosity, he brought it to a local coin shop. What happened next stunned the entire coin world. The dealer examined it, his hands shaking slightly. He flipped it over, studied the details under magnification, and then quietly told the man he might be holding a coin worth hundreds of thousands. At first, the man laughed. A penny worth that much? Impossible. But after the coin was sent to a grading service, the results were undeniable. The penny was authentic, and it was one of only a few known examples. It sold at auction for just under $1 million. News of the sale spread like wildfire through collector circles. Experts pointed out the sharpness of the strike, the unusual metal tone, and a faint doubling effect on Lincoln's profile, something that happens when the coin die strikes the metal twice in slightly misaligned positions. On this penny, that doubling was subtle but unmistakable, especially around the date and the word liberty. That tiny imperfection, something most people would overlook, turned a single cent into a fortune. Dealers rushed to check their collections. Collectors pulled out old jars of coins they'd ignored for years. Some even began searching through bankrolls, hoping lightning would strike twice. But only a handful of authentic examples have surfaced since, each one setting off bidding wars worth hundreds of thousands. But there's something else, a rumor that adds to the drama. Some insiders believe the 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln penny was part of a confidential batch of test strikes for a new copper zinc alloy that wasn't officially used until years later. If true, it means these coins were never meant to circulate at all. They slipped through the cracks of the minting process, a silent accident that turned into a $1 million miracle. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The truth is, most collectors don't realize how subtle these errors can be. The color might look slightly more golden, the edges just a touch smoother, or the lettering may appear bolder than normal. But these are the clues that separate a regular penny from a life-changing discovery. Another shocking detail lies in the weight. While most 1978 pennies weigh around 3.11 grams, some of these rare pieces come in lighter, around 2.8 grams. That difference might seem tiny, but it's proof of a different metal composition. If you've got an old penny from 1978, grab a small digital scale and check. That number could change your life. Collectors were stunned when another example appeared at a coin show in California. The owner had no idea of its worth. He had kept it in a coffee tin since the 1980s. It was graded mint state 67, an exceptionally high grade for such an old coin, and it fetched an eye-watering price. Bidders couldn't believe it. A penny, something we all overlook daily, was suddenly commanding the kind of attention usually reserved for rare gold coins, and the excitement hasn't died down since. Each time a new discovery surfaces, the market reacts like it's witnessing history all over again. Prices surge. Collectors scramble. People dig through their old collections, chasing that same dream that maybe, just maybe, they're holding the next one. First, check the date, 1978. Then, look closely for the absence of a mint mark. Just below the date, it should be completely blank. Examine Lincoln's portrait carefully, especially around his chin, his bow tie, and the word liberty. Any doubling, distortion, or unusual shine could mean something big. Flip it over, look at the Lincoln Memorial. If the lines between the columns look slightly blurred or uneven, that's another clue. And don't forget the weight test. That small difference, even a fraction of a gram, can mean the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and one worth $1 million. Coin experts also suggest paying attention to the coin's sound. Drop it gently on a hard surface. Some of these rare 1978 pennies have a slightly different ring, a higher pitched tone caused by the unique alloy. It's subtle, but it's there. Dealers are still searching for new specimens. Some say fewer than 10 have been confirmed. Others believe there could be dozens still out there, hiding in piggy banks, drawers, or jars of loose change. It's a modern-day treasure hunt, and every day, someone new joins the chase. But the story isn't just about money. It's about discovery. It's about how something so small can change everything. A coin that survived decades of neglect, that passed through countless hands, suddenly becomes a symbol of luck, patience, and perseverance. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and yours could too. Think about it. The next time you find a 1978 penny, don't ignore it. Don't toss it aside. Study it. Weigh it. Look closer. Because behind that worn copper surface could lie one of the most valuable modern coins ever found. A 2014 Lincoln penny, with no mint mark, that sold for more than $1 million. Imagine that, a single penny, something you've probably dropped in your car cup holder without a second thought, worth enough to change someone's entire life. Collectors call it the miracle cent, ordinary in every way at first glance, but hiding a secret that even seasoned experts didn't see coming. The 2014 no mint mark Lincoln penny, a modern coin that rewrote what we thought was possible for pocket change. It all started when a coin collector from Ohio was sorting through a jar of pennies one evening. He wasn't looking for treasure, just rolling coins to take to the bank. But one coin caught his eye. Something about it looked off. The color, the texture, the faint shimmer under the light. He put it aside, not knowing that decision would lead to a discovery worth over $1 million. When he took it to a local dealer, the man's hands started to tremble. The dealer flipped the coin back and forth, inspecting every detail with his loupe. Then he looked up and whispered, "Do you know what you have here?" What he had was no ordinary 2014 penny. It was a coin without a mint mark, a symbol that it came from the Philadelphia Mint. But that wasn't the shocking part. This coin had a hidden error, a rare minting imperfection that made it one of a kind. And that tiny detail transformed a 1-cent coin into a life-changing fortune. Collectors were stunned. News spread through online coin forums and collector groups like wildfire. Dealers were calling each other late into the night, trying to confirm if the story was real. Could a modern Lincoln penny, a coin made just a few years ago, really be worth over $1 million? But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When the penny was submitted to professional graders, it came back with a near-perfect grade, along with confirmation of an ultra-rare double die error. Under magnification, Lincoln's profile and the date showed faint doubling, a subtle but undeniable sign that something went wrong in the minting process. Most people would never notice it. The doubling was microscopic, barely visible unless you knew what to look for. But for those who did, it was a golden ticket. Auction houses began reaching out. Collectors were whispering about it like it was a legend. And when it finally went under the hammer, the room was silent, the kind of silence that fills a space right before history is made. The bidding started in the thousands. Then tens of thousands. And within minutes, the number on the screen passed 6 figures, but it didn't stop there. When the final bid hit over $1 million, gasps filled the room. A penny, 1 cent, had just made someone a millionaire. This moment reignited America's obsession with coins. Suddenly, everyone was digging through their change again. Coffee cans, dresser drawers, glove compartments, all becoming treasure chests overnight. Because if one 2014 penny could be worth $1 million, who knows what else might be out there? The answer lies in the minting process. In 2014, millions of Lincoln cents were struck at mints across the country. But a very few, had microscopic die errors caused by worn equipment. When that happens, the design elements can overlap, shift, or double. To most eyes, it just looks like another penny. But to trained collectors, that error turns common copper into treasure, and there's another twist. Most 2014 pennies were made of copper-plated zinc. But a handful, believed to be test strikes, were accidentally produced using leftover bronze planchets, a metal composition used decades earlier. That subtle difference in color and weight is what drew the first collectors' attention. Dealers who've seen it say it's mesmerizing. The luster glows warmer than modern pennies, and the edges appear slightly thicker. It's a visual clue that hides in plain sight, but here's where the story gets even more incredible. Another coin surfaced months later, another 2014 penny with no mint mark, showing a similar double die error. But this one had a small die crack running through Lincoln's shoulder, a jagged imperfection that proved these coins weren't flukes. They were part of a small, mysterious batch. No one knows exactly how many exist. Some say fewer than 5. Others believe there could be dozens waiting to be discovered in circulation, tucked away in old coin jars, or resting in forgotten drawers. That uncertainty is what keeps collectors hunting, and if you're wondering how you can tell if your 2014 penny might be worth a fortune, here's what to look for. First, the mint mark, or rather, the lack of it. No D for Denver, no S for San Francisco. Just a clean, open space under the date. That's your first clue. Next, tilt the coin under a bright light. Look carefully at the date and at Lincoln's eye, lips, and jawline. If you notice any doubling, even the faintest shadow, that could be your sign. Then, pay attention to the color and weight. The rare bronze versions are slightly heavier, around 3.11 grams compared to the standard 2.5 grams. A digital scale can make all the difference, but what happens next might stun you. If you find one of these coins, don't rush to clean it or sell it. Contact a professional coin grading service. Authenticating your coin can turn it from pocket change into a verified treasure. Collectors are still talking about the man who turned his 2014 penny into over $1 million. He didn't find it in an auction, or from a dealer, he found it in his own home, among coins he'd nearly traded in for cash. That's the magic of numismatics. The thrill of discovery. The idea that history could be sitting quietly in your hand. The market for rare Lincoln pennies has exploded in recent years. Coins once thought too modern to be valuable are now shattering expectations. It's not just about old coins anymore, it's about rarity, condition, and those mysterious minting quirks that slip past the machines, and that's what makes this story so inspiring. Because this isn't about luck, it's about awareness. About knowing what to look for, and daring to believe that even something small can hold unimaginable worth. Every year, new collectors join the hunt. Some start with nothing more than a magnifying glass and a handful of coins. But as history keeps proving, one of those coins could change everything. The 2014 no mint mark Lincoln penny reminds us that the American dream isn't always written in big moments. Sometimes it's stamped in copper and hiding in your change. JAR.SO. Tonight, when you empty your pockets, take one more look. That penny you're about to overlook might be more than just a coin. It might be the key to a new chapter in your life, one worth $1 million. The 1987 no mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin most people would never look at twice, has stunned collectors by selling for as much as $1.2 million. And the reason why is buried deep in a mystery that only a handful of people truly understand. It began like any ordinary day. A man from Illinois was rolling up some spare change to cash in at the bank. Pennies, nickels, dimes, the kind of coins that sit in jars for years. But one penny looked just a little different. It had no mint mark. No D, no S, nothing under the date. Just the year 1987 and the calm face of Abraham Lincoln staring forward. At first, he almost brushed it off. After all, no mint mark on a penny isn't uncommon, right? But something about the shine, the weight, and the texture of this one seemed unusual. So he decided to take a closer look. And that decision led to one of the most incredible discoveries in modern coin collecting, because this wasn't just a missing mint mark. This was a minting mystery, a rare error that slipped through the tightest quality control of the U.S. Mint. Most 1987 pennies were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, and they naturally had no mint mark. But this one had more to it. It was struck on a leftover copper planchet from before 1982, when pennies were made from solid copper instead of the copper-coated zinc used afterward. That's right, this little coin was made of the wrong metal. A mistake that should have never happened, but somehow did. And because of that, its composition makes it one of the rarest and most valuable Lincoln pennies ever found. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When the collector brought his find to a local coin shop, the dealer almost didn't believe it. The penny looked too good, too strange, too impossible. But after multiple tests, checking its weight, metallic content, and strike details, it was confirmed. This was an authentic 1987 penny struck on a 95% copper planchet. Long after the mint had switched to cheaper materials, collectors were shocked. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on this coin. It wasn't just a mistake, it was a time capsule, a survivor from another era, hidden in plain sight for decades. The coin went to auction quietly, with very few people aware of its existence. Some experts whispered about it in online forums, but most assumed it was a rumor. Until the day of the auction came and bids exploded. It started at a few $100s. Then thousands. Then tens of thousands. By the end, it had crossed the unimaginable mark over $1.2 million for a single penny, and that's when people began searching everywhere. Coin rolls were being torn open, old jars emptied, pocket change examined with magnifying glasses. People who had never cared about coins before were suddenly fascinated. Could they have one of these rare 1987 no-mint mark pennies too? But here's the catch, not all 1987 no-mint mark pennies are valuable. You have to know exactly what to look for. The first clue is the weight. A normal 1987 penny, made of copper-plated zinc, weighs about 2.5 grams. But a copper-based one weighs around 3.1 grams. That tiny difference could mean the difference between 1 cent and over $1 million. The second clue is the sound. Drop it gently on a hard surface. Copper has a distinctive ring, a higher, sharper tone, while zinc sounds dull and flat. It's a trick old collectors swear by. And finally, the color. Over the years, copper ages differently than zinc. It develops a richer, deeper red-brown tone. Under certain light, it almost glows, but here's where the story gets even stranger. Experts believe only a handful of these 1987 copper planchet pennies ever escaped the mint. Most would have been caught and melted down before reaching circulation. Yet somehow, a few survived, quietly passing through hands, pockets, and cash registers for decades. Imagine that. For nearly 40 years, people have been spending and receiving change, never realizing one of those pennies could buy them a house, a car, and maybe even a new life. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And it's proof that sometimes the most ordinary-looking things hide the greatest secrets, but there's something even more mysterious. Some collectors have reported finding 1987 pennies with odd double strikes, misaligned edges, or faint ghost-like impressions of Lincoln's profile. These small errors, while not always worth millions, can still fetch hundreds or even thousands of dollars from the right buyer. It shows how unpredictable and thrilling the world of rare coins truly is. The United States Mint produces billions of coins each year. And despite the incredible precision of modern machines, mistakes still happen, moments of human error, metal mix-ups, or planchets that slip through undetected. Each one tells a story. Each one is a fragment of history, and when that story connects with rarity, beauty, and mystery, it becomes something more than just money. It becomes treasure. This 1987 no-mint mark Lincoln penny isn't just valuable for its error. It represents the dream that every collector holds deep inside, that life-changing moment when you find something extraordinary in the most ordinary place. Think about it, you could be holding history in your hand right now. A coin that's passed through gas stations, lunch counters, vending machines, quietly carrying a secret that could be worth a fortune. Collectors who've spent their lives chasing rare coins say there's nothing like that moment of realization. The sudden heart-pounding rush when you notice a missing mint mark, a heavier weight, a slightly off color, and you know you found something incredible. So before you toss your change into that jar or feed it into a coin machine, take a closer look. That 1-cent coin could hold a story worth more than gold, and here's the best part, you don't need to be an expert. You just need curiosity, patience, and a good eye. Because the next millionaire coin might not be sitting in a collector's vault. It might be sitting in your kitchen drawer. Look for a 1987 penny with no mint mark. Test its weight, 3.1 grams is the magic number. Notice its ring, its shine, its feel. If it looks or feels different, don't ignore it. Have it tested by a reputable coin dealer or appraiser. Every great discovery starts with a small moment of attention, and if history has taught us anything, it's that fortune favors those who look closer. A single penny. Ordinary to the eye. Life-changing to the one who found it. Some stories in the coin world sound like legends, tales told at dusty antique shops or whispered between collectors at coin shows. But the 1964 no-mint mark Lincoln penny isn't a myth. It's a mystery that turned everyday pocket change into pure gold. Imagine it. You're sorting through a handful of old coins. You see a dull copper penny, maybe with a little wear, maybe even a nick or two. You almost toss it aside. But something about the date, 1964, catches your eye. You flip it over. No mint mark. Just a smooth, clean space where a tiny D or S should be. You don't realize it yet, but that missing mark could mean the difference between 1 cent and $1.3 million. The story of the 1964 no mint mark penny begins in a tense time in American history. The early 1960s were a storm for the U.S. Mint. Silver prices were rising, coins were vanishing from circulation, and production was pushed to its limits. Philadelphia, the mint responsible for coins without mint marks, was racing to meet demand. Mistakes happened, and one of those mistakes became a millionaire's dream. Collectors say that a few 1964 pennies were struck with an extraordinary level of detail, possibly from an experimental die or a transitional planchet, a leftover blank meant for another metal composition. Some even whisper that a few were struck using proof dies, intended for collector sets, but accidentally mixed with circulation strikes. That's what gives them that mirror-like shine, and that shocking value. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. In the early 2000s, a humble collector from the Midwest brought what he thought was just a nice old penny to a local coin dealer. When they looked closer, their jaws dropped. The coin wasn't just well struck, it was flawless. Crisp edges, deep lines in Lincoln's portrait, a satin-smooth background. Under magnification, experts noticed microscopic differences in the lettering and the rim, the kind seen only in prototype or test strikes. The dealer immediately sent it for professional grading. When the results came back, the coin world lit up. The verdict: a unique 1964 no-mint mark Lincoln penny with an extraordinary strike and possible die anomaly. The value? Over $1 million. From that moment, the hunt began. Collectors across the country started combing through jars, coin rolls, even dusty boxes in attics. Every 1964 penny suddenly became a question mark. Was this the next $1 million miracle? Dealers were shocked at how few truly perfect examples existed. Out of billions made that year, only a handful showed the exact features that defined this rare variety. That's when the frenzy really started, but this tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. It's not just the date. It's the way the coin was made. On authentic high-value 1964 no-mint mark pennies, Lincoln's hair and jawline are unusually sharp. The letters in Liberty and In God We Trust appear slightly bolder, almost carved rather than struck. And on the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial's lines are unusually crisp, with strong column definition and perfect centering. These are signs of an early strike from a fresh die, the kind collectors dream of. And then there's the color. Not your ordinary brownish copper. The valuable examples shine with a red or red-brown luster, as if time forgot to dull them. Experts say that original mint brilliance can multiply the value tenfold, but that's not all. One theory suggests that a few of these coins were struck on leftover bronze planchets from the 1950s, slightly different in metal content. If true, it explains the unique tone, weight, and magnetic behavior of the rarest ones. When tested, their readings don't quite match standard 1964 specs. Now, here's where it gets really mysterious. The Philadelphia Mint officially produced over 2.6 billion pennies in 1964. Yet, almost none show the extreme precision of this $1 million version. Some say the dies were experimental. Others believe a mint worker, realizing the mistake, quietly removed the remaining examples before they could be destroyed. Collectors were stunned. Could a forgotten batch of 1964 no-mint mark proofs still be out there, hidden in collections or tucked in old coffee cans? Every expert has a theory. And every collector wants to be the one to prove it. One man in California claims he found his 1964 penny while searching through his late father's coin albums. The coin was perfectly preserved, still gleaming after decades. When appraised, it was valued in the high six figures, nearly $7. He said it felt like his father had left him a message: pay attention to the small things, they're often worth the most. Stories like that are what keep the thrill alive. Dealers are still rushing to get their hands on any 1964 pennies in exceptional condition. Even slightly unusual examples can fetch thousands. But the truly special ones, those flawless, mysterious no-mint mark strikes, are the holy grail. But what happened next left even the experts speechless. At an elite auction, one of these coins shattered expectations. Bidding started modestly, but when word spread that it was a verified 1964 transitional strike with pristine preservation, the room exploded with offers. The final hammer fell at $1.3 million. Gasps filled the air. A single penny had rewritten history. It's the kind of story that makes you look twice at every coin you touch. The kind that reminds you treasures don't always glitter, sometimes they just weigh 1 cent. Start with the basics. Look for a 1964 date with no mint mark under the year. Then check for strong, sharp details in Lincoln's portrait, the kind that almost look 3D. Flip it over. Study the Lincoln Memorial. Are the steps clear and crisp? Are the columns perfectly formed? If so, you might be looking at a coin struck early in production, the kind that commands serious attention. Next, observe the color. True red or red-brown luster, untouched by fingerprints or oxidation, signals preservation straight from the mint. Finally, weigh it. If it's slightly off the standard 3.11 grams, you might have a transitional or experimental strike, and that's where the real magic lies. Coin experts recommend professional grading if you even suspect your 1964 penny could be special. A certified grade can mean the difference between a few dollars and a life-changing fortune, because remember, every legendary discovery starts with someone who bothered to look twice. That dull penny in your drawer, that coin you almost spent at the gas station, could hold a secret the mint never meant to reveal. Collectors have seen it happen. Dreamers have lived it. And the next miracle could be yours. A plain brown penny, dirty, scratched, and forgettable. But when a sharp-eyed collector spotted the tiny D beneath the date 1988, everything changed. That same coin would go on to sell for a staggering $1.4 million. And the most shocking part? Thousands more might still be out there, hiding in junk drawers, coin jars, or your own wallet right now. Imagine holding something so ordinary, yet so rare, that it could rewrite your financial story overnight. That's the power of the 1988 D Lincoln penny, one of the most mysterious and valuable modern coins in American history. It all began at the Denver Mint in 1988. Pennies were rolling off the presses by the millions, billions, in fact. Copper-plated zinc blanks were punched, polished, and stamped with Lincoln's timeless profile. But deep within that massive production run, a mistake slipped through. A subtle error so microscopic that it went unnoticed by nearly everyone. Collectors wouldn't realize what had happened until decades later. And when they did, it turned the coin world upside down. One afternoon, a coin dealer from Arizona was sorting through a bag of circulated pennies. Most were worth exactly 1 cent. But one coin caught his attention. The lettering on the obverse looked different. The letters seemed sharper, the spacing slightly off, and Lincoln's bust carried a detail he hadn't seen on any Denver penny before. He looked closer under magnification and froze. He wasn't just looking at an ordinary 1988 D penny. He was holding a coin that had been struck with a proof die, a die meant for the following year's design. Somehow, a 1989 obverse die had been used on a 1988 Denver coin. A minting crossover. An accident so rare that only a handful have ever been verified, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word of the discovery spread like wildfire. Within days, collectors were emptying jars, tearing through old rolls, and inspecting every 1988 D they could find. Coin forums lit up with images, theories, and disbelief. Could a simple penny, struck in the same year Reagan was president, really be worth over $1 million? The answer was yes. And the proof came at auction. When the first verified example hit the auction block, the bidding was fierce. What started at a few $1,000s quickly climbed into 6 figures, then 7. Seasoned dealers couldn't believe what they were seeing. By the time the gavel fell, that tiny coin had fetched $1.4 million, one of the highest prices ever paid for a Lincoln cent in modern history. And here's where things get even more intriguing. Experts believe there are more of these 1988 D transition era pennies still circulating. The Denver Mint struck over 5 billion pennies that year, and even if 1 in a billion had this flaw, that means a few could still be hiding in everyday change. Think about that. Every time you pick up a penny off the sidewalk or clean out the cup holder in your car, you could be seconds away from finding $1 million treasure. Collectors were shocked not just by the coin's rarity but by its subtlety. This wasn't a dramatic double die or a misstrike with visible deformities. No, this was precision gone slightly wrong. The 1988 D penny with the 1989 obverse die error shows one key difference: the designer's initials, FG, located to the right of the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. On normal 1988 D coins, those initials have a distinct shape and spacing. On the rare error version, the G has a flat tail, and the letters sit closer together, matching the 1989 proof design. This tiny detail, invisible to the untrained eye, is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it completely. Imagine the feeling of discovering it. You're counting spare change at the kitchen table, just like any other night. A penny slips between your fingers, and something about it feels off. You turn it in the light, notice the D mint mark, the date, and then that faint difference in the designer's initials. You grab a magnifying glass. your heart starts to pound. That's exactly what happened to one man from Illinois. After watching a video about rare pennies, he checked his coin jar. Out of sheer curiosity, he began inspecting every 1988D he found. When he spotted the strange initials, he sent it for professional grading. Weeks later, he got the call. It was authentic. His coin was valued at over $1 million. Collectors were stunned. Dealers scrambled. The hunt for the 1988D era penny reignited nationwide. And to this day, people are still searching. Inside the mint, dies are constantly swapped, polished, and replaced. Sometimes, an adverse die meant for 1 year or one mint accidentally gets paired with the wrong reverse die. It's a mistake that can go unnoticed until coins leave the facility. In this case, the Denver Mint likely used an experimental 1989 obverse die on a small batch of 1988 planchets before the error was caught. That's what makes this penny so special. It's a living accident, a snapshot of minting history frozen in copper, and yet, it still looks just like the pennies you spend every day. The more you learn about it, the more fascinating it becomes. The difference between a 1-cent coin and $1 million coin comes down to a tiny engraving less than 1/8 of an inch wide. It's humbling. It makes you wonder how many treasures have slipped through your hands without you ever realizing it. Collectors often say the 1988D penny represents the perfect mix of rarity, mystery, and historical significance. It's not a flashy gold coin or a centuries-old relic. It's a piece of modern America, humble, accessible, and hiding in plain sight. But what's even more inspiring is what this coin represents. A reminder that incredible value can come from the most ordinary places. That sometimes, the things we overlook hold the greatest potential. Start by grabbing every 1988D penny you can find. Look just below Lincoln's shoulder for the small FG initials. Use a magnifying glass and good lighting. On the rare version, the initials appear more compact, with the G missing its curved tail. That's the telltale sign of the 1989 proof die. If you spot it, don't clean the coin. Don't try to polish it. Keep it safe and have it authenticated by a reputable grading service like PCGS or NGC. Many fakes and altered coins exist, so you'll want expert confirmation before celebrating. But if yours turns out to be real, you might just be holding one of the rarest modern pennies ever minted, worth well over $1 million. And here's the truth that keeps collectors searching night after night: you never know where the next great discovery will come from. Maybe a roll of pennies from your bank. Maybe the change from your morning coffee. Or maybe, it's been sitting in that old jar in your garage for decades, waiting for the right pair of eyes to notice it, because history has shown, time and again, that fortune favors the curious. This isn't just about coins. It's about seeing value where others see none. About recognizing opportunity in the smallest details. About holding on to the belief that something extraordinary might be hiding in the most ordinary places. So tonight, when you check your pockets, take a closer look at those pennies. What of them might carry the rare 1988D mint mark, the hidden error, the subtle initials, and the potential to change your life? Collectors call it the $1 million penny. Historians call it a minting mystery. But you? You might just call it your ticket to freedom. It all started with a penny. A simple, ordinary-looking Lincoln penny that nearly ended up in a parking lot puddle. But this wasn't just any penny. It was a 2006 Lincoln penny, a coin that would go on to shock collectors, spark bidding wars, and sell for over $1.5 million. Most people would have walked right past it. Dull, brown, and worn from circulation, it didn't look like treasure. But the truth hiding beneath its copper surface changed everything. Because this penny carries a secret, one that even experienced collectors missed for years. The story begins in 2006 at the Denver Mint. Millions of Lincoln pennies rolled off the presses that year. Same design. Same metal. Same familiar face of Abraham Lincoln. But among those millions, a handful came out wrong. A faint mistake, invisible to the untrained eye, transformed this 1-cent coin into a $1 million miracle. Collectors say the first clue appeared when a coin dealer in Arizona bought a small batch of mixed rolls from a local bank. He expected pocket change. What he found inside left him speechless. One of the pennies had a shimmer, a different texture. The edges looked slightly off, the lettering subtly misaligned. At first, he thought it was just wear. But when he placed it under a magnifying glass, he saw it, a minting error so rare, it wasn't even documented at the time. The D mint mark, the tiny letter beneath the date, was punched slightly higher than normal. That may sound minor, but to collectors, it's like finding a diamond in a bucket of rocks. Because it meant this coin wasn't struck like the others. It had slipped through the strict quality checks of the US Mint unnoticed. When he sent it for grading, the experts were stunned. They confirmed it wasn't just a simple misalignment, the entire die used to strike this coin had been slightly rotated and doubled. That's right, some details on Lincoln's portrait and the word Liberty showed a ghost-like doubling effect. News spread fast. Collectors from coast to coast started scouring their change jars. Coin shops were flooded with calls. Everyone wanted to know, could their 2060 penny be one of the $1 million ones? But here's where the story takes a twist: only a few examples have ever been verified. And each time one surfaces, it sends shockwaves through the numismatic world. In one unforgettable auction, a pristine 2060 penny with this exact doubling error and sharp mint mark placement sold for over $1.5 million. The bidding was fierce, seasoned investors and lifelong collectors battling to own a piece of minting history. Imagine that. A coin you could have spent on a cup of coffee becoming worth more than most homes. But what makes this penny so special isn't just its rarity, it's what it represents. It's proof that even in a world of machines and precision, mistakes still happen. Beautiful mistakes, and those mistakes create legends. The penny's unique characteristics are what make it instantly recognizable to trained eyes. The key details to watch for are subtle, but they're there. Start with the date, 2006. Then check the D mint mark. If it's slightly higher or closer to the base of the number 6 than usual, that's your first sign. Next, look closely at Lincoln's profile, especially the nose, lips, and the word Liberty. If you see faint doubling, a shadow-like repetition of the letters, you might be holding one of the rarest pennies in existence. But don't stop there. Check the reverse side too. Some of these coins show extra thickness in the letters of United States of America or the word 1 cent. It's subtle but powerful evidence of a double die strike. Dealers are still talking about it. Auction houses keep their eyes open for the next one. And everyday Americans continue to check their spare change, just hoping lightning will strike twice, because stories like this don't come along often. A penny that could have been lost in a parking lot turns into a ticket to wealth. One man's casual find becomes a collector's holy grail, and here's the truth most people don't realize: these coins are still out there. Hidden in drawers, piggy banks, or old coffee cans full of junk change. You could have one right now without even knowing it. Think about that for a second. You've probably held hundreds of 2060 pennies over the years. They blend in perfectly with the rest. But one of them, just one, could quietly be worth a fortune. Collectors describe the thrill as electric, the rush of spotting a small detail others missed. The feeling of history and luck colliding in your hands. It's not just about money. It's about discovery. About finding meaning in something so ordinary that it becomes extraordinary. But here's a warning: the fakes are out there too. Some people try to artificially double a coin using pressure or heat. Those are worthless. Real doubling happens only during the minting process, when the die itself shifts slightly during striking. That's why authentication is key. Always have your coin graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC before assuming you've hit the jackpot. Still, even experts admit they can't account for every surviving piece. A few could easily be sitting unnoticed in circulation, and that's what keeps the hunt alive, because every time someone opens an old coin roll, dumps out a jar of pennies, or empties a forgotten drawer, there's a moment of possibility. The thought that maybe, just maybe, the next coin that falls into their hand is worth $1 million. So take another look at your change. Pull out those 2060 pennies and examine them under a bright light. Pay attention to the details. Look for the elevated mint mark, the doubled letters, the crisp texture that feels just a little off, because history has a funny way of hiding in plain sight. And remember, the man who found the first one didn't know what he had. He almost spent it on a snack. But a single moment of curiosity changed his life forever. This isn't just a story about money. It's about noticing the extraordinary in the ordinary. About turning something overlooked into something legendary. So next time a penny lands in your palm, don't dismiss it. Look closer. Because the next coin you pick up could be the one that makes you a millionaire.